Hello YouTube, I'm Edison Waltz on another deck profile for my second favorite clan, which is Shadow Paladins. This is not my true Shadow Paladin deck. This is just the Shadow Paladin deck that I currently run until I can get my Raging Form Revenger deck up and running. And my other deck that I will eventually be doing, one that I have completed a little bit more than my Revengers, which is my Liberators for Gold Paladins. I'm just missing 9 cards from the Liberators, but on to the Shadow Paladins. This is the Stride variant for them, so without further ado, let's begin. For the starter, I run Full Bow Brave. Basically your search card for Blaster once you have a generation. Basically to help your Stride enabling abilities. Yeah, moving on. Next up, I have the original Shadow Paladin heal triggers, which are Abyss Healer. So, the 2 clans that I love are Shadow Paladin, or the 3 clans that I love the first one I loved was the first deck I ever built from scratch, which was my Grand Blue. The second one I built from scratch was my Shadow Paladins. Every other deck I've gotten starters or I've attempted to build from scratch. So, yeah. But yeah, the Shadow Paladins were the deck I tried to build for tournament use. So, but moving on. Next, I run a 4 heal, 4 draw, and 8 crit. So, yeah. Moving on. Revenger Undead Angel. Well, your standard crit trigger. So, I'm not going to get too much into it. Next up is Death Feather Eagle. Another classic. I love the classics for certain cards. They're fun. And another for my final classic, I do run some classics in here, but another classic is, and this is the draw trigger, Abyss Freezer. Yeah, standard draw trigger. So moving on. This card is a bit of a interesting card. It is a Sentinel. It does have a grade 2 version. If you're wondering what I'm talking about, first off, okay, imagine Skull Witch Nevin younger, like age 10 instead of in their teens. They're preteens, to be specific. Imagine her in her preteen. Little Skull Witch Nevin is what I was talking about. Standard Sentinel, except for one unique little ability. If you have another copy of her in the drop zone, you get to discard a card and draw another card. This is during the guard step, by the way. Repeat that. You get to discard and draw another card during the guard step, as long as you have another copy of her in the drop zone. That's interesting. For this next one, it's part of the Demon Castle archetype. I run 2 copies of this guy. If you can read the name, good. Self-Damager. Every Cardfight fan should know what that means. If not, if you want more ruling on this, go to the official website, cardfightvanguard.com, and look up the cards, or yeah. Next up, which I also run 2 of, which I do plan to run 3 of something different, because, well, I'll get to that in a moment. But right now I run 2 copies of Night Sky Eagle replacement cards. Once you have a generation break, this card basically has 4,000 power to any unit after you have a generation break of 1 ability, enablers, basically your G units after you first stride. The card that I want to replace them with is another copy of this. This is Brenwyn. Here's the name if you want to read it. It gets you a particular grade 3. To be specific, it gets you Supreme Dragon, Clarence Sword Dragon. That's what this card gets you. This card's also the card that allows you to stride into grade 4. It basically becomes a grade 2. The Narukami has one, which I've already shown you. So I need 3 more of this guy. Next up, which is also a Blaster Searcher, which is Pitch Black Sage Karen. Just take off the pitch and you got Black Sage Karen. This is just the evolutionary form of it. Basically, the grade 1 version of this. So, yeah. Moving along. I'm bringing some more classics. Wow. I really love my classic cards. Demon World Castle Fatalita. 2 copies. Basically your 5k shield that goes up to a 10k shield when intercepting. I love the Demon World Castles. Next up is 2 copies of Demon World Castle Zui Spear. These are pronounced right. Basically Counterblast 1 Shadow Paladin. You're a Shadow Paladin user. Never mix the deck unless you do the Royal Paladin, Shadow Paladin, Majesty Lord Blaster hybrid. But yeah, basically gains 4,000 power when this unit attacks. And you have a Shadow Paladin Vanguard, which in this deck you should always have a Shadow Paladin Vanguard. No Royal Paladins or mixed clan. This clan can only be mixed with Royal Paladins. If you try to mix it with other clans, go find a hole. Go find an area to dig a hole. Dig a hole. Jump in the hole. And then cover yourself with the hole. For an hour. Then come back up and realize that you made a horrible mistake for mixing anything other than Royal Paladins with the Shadow Paladins. And then have a nice day. Pretty much I'm trying to say it in the nicest way. Bugger off. If you want to mix Shadow Paladin with anything other than Royal. That's the only clan that actually works with Shadow. Anyway, moving on. I basically have 6 self-damagers. The 2 grade 1s, and then 4 grade 2s. It's the Demon World Nut. I'm not reading the rest of the name because I can't pronounce it worth a shit. If you can read that, good for you. But moving on. Next up is Knight of Fighting Spirit Dordana. That's how I pronounce it. If I pronounce it wrong, send me a video showing me how to properly pronounce it. Your standard vanilla. If people who don't know what a vanilla is, it's basically a unit that has no power, but is a standard. This has a standard power level of 10k. 5k shield. It's a grade 2. It has no abilities. It's just there as a beat stick. Enough said. Moving along. I run, and I do hope to get 3 more. I do hope to replace these, which is 3 copies of Gigantic Keeper. Basically, when its attack hits a Vanguard, it gives 3,000 power to any unit on my field, any Shadow Paladin unit to be specific. The cards that the cards that I hope to replace them with will be Clarence Sword Dragon. I choose Generation Break of 2, Choose 2 of my Shadow Paladin rear guards, retire them. This unit gains 10,000 power plus 1 crit until the end of the turn. Stride ability. I basically get to superior call a grade 1 or less with a counter blast of 1 and give that unit 2,000 power. Yeah, he's a good card. But the staple of the deck that I prefer to build, I do want Clarence Sword Dragon and Blaster Blade Diablo, my avatar for the Shadow Paladins. I love Blaster Dark. Blaster Blade's cool. I like Blaster Blade too. He's my royal and gold avatars. My avatar for Grand Blue would be Cocytus. All his 3 versions, including Cocytus Negative, which I do hope to get. Which I would love a copy if anyone from my, I guess I should say my locals, shows up there. Oh, I'm also gonna need another Cocytus Reverse and a normal Cocytus. So yeah, this guy, Generation Break of 2, can use any unit as the cost for Stride, meaning all of my units. Meaning a grade 0 becomes a grade 3, a grade 1 becomes a grade 4, a grade 2 becomes a grade 5, a grade 3 becomes a grade 6, and just to have a little fun, a grade 4 becomes a grade 7. Because there is a Great Nature unit that is a grade 4, and that isn't a Stride unit, that is an actual card. There's also a Kagero unit that's the same thing, and that is to be used in the main deck, not in this G zone. In the G deck. Oh yes, it's other really. When Stride upon, with a specific unit called Phantom Blaster, called Dark Dragon Phantom Blaster Diablo. Retire one of my opponent's rear guards. I will get to why that is a useful ability when I get to Phantom Blaster Diablo. But first, 2 grade 4s that I hate. Oh, I hate these bloody cards. Dark Knight Grim Recruiter. He basically calls a grade 1 to the field. For the cost of I have to hit my opponent. These cards are only in this deck for G assist. When I get the replacements that I want for it, which will be the current Phantom Blaster, which is the current one that was just played in episode 17 of Subbed. This thing will be gone. There's 2 copies of that thing. The 2 cards that I love, which eventually I will be getting all of the Blaster cards, is Dark Knight Phoenician, which is the proper pronunciation, by the way. When this card is placed on the Vanguard Circle after being strided, after the stride cost, retire one of your units. This unit gains 3,000 power, as well as gains the additional ability of when this unit hits a Vanguard, retire one of your opponent's Vanguards. So if you have a grade, if you retire, say, a grade 1 behind, let's say it's behind him, you call another grade 1 that's behind him, you basically have 40,000 power coming at you. And that's under, again, perfect condition. And let's say you get let's say you get 3 triggers. That's 55,000 under perfect conditions. The next card, which is my favorite, and I bought 2 of the Dark Ren exclusive decks that came out, and I got them at a Comic-Con. Dark Dragon Phantom Blaster Diablo. Now, if you're wondering why I'm holding up the grade 3 Blaster Dark Diablo, it's because, remember that ability that I said that had this guy's specific name in here? There's a reason for that. Counterblast 1. Retire. Choose a copy of him. Turn it face up. Retire 3 of your units. And if the number of cards in your G zone is 2 or more, hence this guy first, then this guy. And then you retire 3 of your, and you hit this unit until the end of the turn. This unit gets 10,000 power plus 1 critical, so that's 36. 36 to crit. With the auto ability of retire 3 of your rear guards when this unit attacks. Your opponent must retire 2 of his or her rear guards if they wish to block. Let me repeat this. They have to retire 2 units on their field. They have to retire 2 units on their field in order to play a perfect guard to stop this guy's attack. Because you will be taking 2 damage if you let this hit. Let's say you have grade 1 with 7,000 power behind it. That's 43,000 to crit. Let's say you get enough to bring them up to let's say let's say you get 3 perfect. Let's say you get 3 critical triggers. That's another 3 crit added on, so that's 5 crit. 58,000. And that's without even this thing's power. Let's say I had 2 of these on the field, so that's another 6,000 power. Let's say they hit, another 6,000 power. Plus, both of these at the time this guy started on, so that's another 14,000. That's 14,000 power right there. Add to his 58. That would bring him up to 68. 72,000. This is, mind you, this is under perfect conditions. Perfect conditions. Oh, right, I forgot another run ability. If this guy's on the field, this card, when we're retiring for this guy's ability, this card basically becomes 2 units. So you only have to sacrifice 2 units on your field if this thing's on the field. So I forgot to mention that. But yeah, that's my current Shadow Paladin deck. It's not the one that I will be using in the future. So I will eventually do that. Yeah, so basically the cards I need for that one are 2 more copies of the Break Ride for the Shadow Paladins, which is Illusionary Revenger, Mordred Phantom, and then 4 copies of Revenger Raging Form Dragon. 2 copies of Blaster Dark Diablo, and what else do I need from here? I think that was it. Oh, right, and 1 more copy of this version of Dorant. There are 2 versions of Dorant. This is this is the Revenger Dorant. So I need more copies of that. 3 more copies of Nullity Revenger Masquerade. So I will show you the units quickly enough that I need for. All these units that you see right here, 2 copies for these guys, 3 copies for this guy, 1 copy for this. So, yeah. Actually, scratch that. Make that 2 more copies for this thing. Because I only plan to run 2 of this guy. Which is, Transient Revenger Masquerade. Raging Form Dragon, and I will trade these off in whatever else I have. So I'd appreciate it because this is going to be my main deck that I use. This is gonna. I only have 2 decks that will not run strides. My main Shadow Paladin deck and my Gold Paladin deck, my Liberators. These are the only 2 decks that will not run strides. Well, actually, technically, I have 3, but I will not. I probably won't be using this deck as much, which is my Dimensional Robos, Dayusha build. I just plan on running Reverse Dayusha, so, or even Great Dayusha, because I only need 1 more copy of this guy, 3 copies of this guy, and 1 more copy of this guy, because right now I have this in the deck. But anyway, again, almost running on 21 minutes here. So with that said, peace.